Welcome to Growing Belleville Through Community Chats, a podcast presented by the Greater Belleville Chamber of Commerce to help highlight, promote, and enlighten people, businesses, and community events in the Greater Belleville area. Here are your hosts, Stephen Sedlak and Eric Huber.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of Growing Belleville Through Community Chats presented by the Greater Belleville Chamber of Commerce. I'm your co-host, Stephen Sedlak, along with Eric Huber. How are we, Eric?
I'm doing well, Stephen. How are you?
Wonderful. Nice and sunny out today. We were just talking about the possibility of snow flurries on Tuesday and how fun that is for school districts to handle. So let's keep the sunshine going. I know I'm okay with it. I'm ready for warmer weather throughout the rest of the year, so I'm good with it. We have today Dr. Ryan Boike from District 118. How are you today?
I'm good, gentlemen. How are you guys doing?
Wonderful for a Monday.
I'm good.
So why don't you just kind of, real quick, just kind of give a little background of yourself and your little spiel of where you got to where you're at.
You know, I'm not from Belleville. I grew up in a small rural town in Minnesota. I joined the Air Force when I was right out of high school, and I got stationed at Scott Air Force Base, sort of in the middle of a cornfield, so I kind of felt like I was at home, but did a lot of work with the YMCA and with kids, and went to the college formerly known as BAC, SWIC, and then I went to SIU for my undergrad in elementary education, and I taught, actually, this is year 27 in the district for me, 28 years ago, actually 29 years ago, I student taught at Franklin. It's funny because I remember you guys when you were still in elementary school and junior high, and I know Eric played sports in high school, so I kind of feel like the old guy here, but I taught for a few years. I was principal at Central Junior High in Roosevelt, and I was the assistant superintendent for 12 years, and this is my fourth as the superintendent. So I guess 29 years ago, if someone would have said, you're going to be the superintendent, I'd be like, who would want that job? I'm like, no way. But I am super lucky. I feel like I work in the best school district in the state of Illinois. We have awesome people on our team. We have awesome kids and families in our district. So I feel super lucky to be where I'm at. And part of that success is we're here in Belleville where the community supports education.
Yeah, that was going to be my first question, actually, is, did you kind of already answered it, but, when you first went into teaching, was that kind of your goal, was to just to be a teacher your whole career? Or did you kind of have thoughts of, moving up through the administrative aspect of it? Or was it always just to kind of teach or just see where things go?
I love teaching. I love the interaction with students in that setting. I coached back in the day, but I also was the summer camp director for the Abraham Lincoln Neighborhood Association summer camp, where I kind of got a taste of kind of being that person sort of who has to be the leader. And I think that was sort of the impetus that got me thinking, hey, maybe I'll go back and get my admin degree and be a school principal. And then it happened quicker probably than I had thought it would. But again, it was sort of a right place, right time. I always felt like I had a great network around me, that if there was something I wasn't prepared for, I had a lot of people that I could lean on for help.
Through, like you said, you kind of went through the ranks through different schools and all that. And 118 and District 201 have a very close relationship. At least I feel like there is. And you guys work very well hand in hand with each other. But, you guys, you and Dr. Menzer, but not just you guys, but previously with Dr. Dozier and Klosterman as well, have always had a good relationship. How have those working hand in hand, I guess, how do you view that as being a complement for each other?
It's huge. It's huge. When we can collaborate, we have usually more resources. Usually two minds are better than one. Dr. Menzer and Dr. Dozier both started out in District 118, so we give them kind of a rough time. But not only would I consider those individuals good friends of mine, but awesome colleagues who, again, if we need help with something, and we share a lot of services with 201, which not only saves us money, but it ensures that we put the best thing out there for our families and kids.
I would assume Ryan is Obviously your district is a heavy feeder into 201. I mean, is there a lot of conversations about, whether it be education or talking about, I don't know, kind of what you guys are bringing to the table at 118 in the grade schools? Are you kind of on the same page of where the high schools would like the kids to be? I would assume those conversations are being had, right?
They are. We usually do articulation meetings every year. I think we probably did more pre-COVID, but I know there's a lot of collaboration between our junior high principals, admin team, teachers, and the high school. You talk about, serving the same families. I was at the the Chick-fil-A tournament, and, we have a lot of former 118 kids that play on the sports teams for the high school. So just seeing those families at the games and kind of reconnecting, not only players, but I know Alex Schobert, the basketball coach at West, is a former Central Junior High grad and 118 kid. But I think we share food service, we share transportation, we do all of our own background checks for both districts. Just to name a few, we just hired a staff counselor we're sharing with the high school. But when you talk about doing things for kids, I think the staff at 201 and the staff at 118 do a good job of complementing each other. I know they usually say, hey, these are what our kids need to be able to do when they get to us. And they also are fully prepared to support those same kids while they're still in our system. I know we have the Honor Society kids that have tutored. There'll be kids that from the high school that come in and read to our elementary students. So there's a lot of collaboration and a lot of support going back and forth.
One thing I want to ask you about is 201 just opened up the cave, right? Which is a fabulous facility, and me and Eric have been out there a few times as well too. During that process, was there any input from you guys at all in regards to that, or anything? I'm just kind of curious on my end, I guess.
I think the community need drove that more than anything else. We were aware of that project and what it would do. We've had family consumer science, we had industrial arts up until this year. Now we have innovation lab, but we've had different courses to introduce kids to some of those same things. But it's phenomenal what they've done over there. The opportunities for kids and the community. But I don't know that. I think the community need drove that more than anything else, and I think that's been a project that's been in the works for several years.
You guys also, me and Eric were talking a little bit before you get on here. You guys, what was it, maybe 3-4 years ago or so, had your big initiative of, adding on, like to Union and all the other projects that you guys had going. Kind of touch on that a little bit and the need that arose, how that became to be that, hey, Union needed to be added on for growth and things of that nature.
Well, we had two of our largest elementary schools, Abraham Lincoln and Union School, that had probably two of the smallest gymnasiums in the district. And with that, they were growing, so we thought, well, we could add some classroom space. And anytime you're going to add classroom space, you want to make things safer. So we added secure entrances to those buildings. And then also we looked across the district, what are some things that would make us either safer, more efficient? So we did new doors and windows at several buildings. We put a secured entrance at West Junior High. But I think growth and then safety, and then trying to make sure that we provided access to those students at those larger buildings so that they could have physical education in a regular sized gymnasium.
That's funny you say about the small gym, because I went to Union myself back in the day, and I always remember we would play basketball or whatever, and I was on the basketball team there, and then we'd go to, I think our games were at Jefferson at the time, and you walk into Jefferson and it felt like you're in a huge double the size room gym compared to the one that Union had. It was small, I will say that.
Yeah, Union, you had to probably stand out of bounds to shoot a three-pointer. That's how small the floor was.
Yeah, it was.
Hey, Ryan, you brought something up that I was going to touch on too. Obviously, with the additions and everything, and especially the safety. I mean, unfortunately, you turn on the TV and, this weekend you hear about the California shootings, and unfortunately it's in today's school. So, how important is that when you're designing new buildings, new classrooms, as you said? How often are you guys having that conversation? Are you bringing inside help to see the newest and latest technologies? Like I said, unfortunately, it's in today's world, and we have to worry about that in schools, which is just crazy. But maybe touch on that a little bit with how you guys handle things.
Well, I think school safety drives most of what we do. I mean, in education, perception is often reality that if people don't think schools are safe, they're not going to send their kids to school. But that was a huge factor when we were designing those projects. We're currently working with Omni Energy to look at our existing, they're a performance contractor, to look at our existing buildings that don't have the secure entrances that we want, where you buzz into the school and you have to go immediately to the office. We've got a few buildings that are older where you still have to buzz in. Our buildings are locked during the day, but the office isn't the first place that you go. There might be a hallway. So we're looking at how we can make those safer. Also, we don't have school resource officers in our district, but we have safety and security coordinators, and we actually hired our fourth one, but they're all retired police officers. I think they've all been SROs at one time, but they go around every day and monitor our buildings, check on things. They're our liaison to the police department. If we have a crisis situation, they respond first, but they're awesome. They're outstanding at what they do, and really for their experience and knowledge, there's nobody better out there. But that's one initiative that I don't think people are fully aware of. But I know from staff members feeling like, hey, you know what, I'm safe at school. That goes a long way.
Yeah, I agree. I think your staff and your students, everybody, especially in today's world, does. On another note, kind of shifting gears a little bit here, I know you guys, we kind of touched a little bit before, mentioned it, is the Belonging Begins with Belleville initiative that you guys have launched. How did that kind of come to fruition, and what's kind of the strategic plan behind it?
Well, I think this is year 3 of our Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee, and that committee started, I think, because some of the things that were happening across the nation, and we just thought, hey, how can we do better? What can we do to make sure that every single kid and every single family member feels like, District 118, that's a destination. I want to be there. I want my kids in those schools. And so we thought about what can we do to, we're a diverse district, and what can we do to celebrate that, recognize that, and then also how can we make sure everybody feels like they belong? So we started that committee, and that's evolved. Last summer we had our first DEI, District 118 hosted a DEI summit. The date for the second one, this coming June, is already in place, but the committee over the course of last year thought about how can we get the community more involved. So they came up with a T-shirt initiative, and it says Belonging Begins with Belleville, and it's on the old city flag colors. And part of that was, we wanted to celebrate, recognize the history, celebrate everything Belleville's been good at, and make sure that everybody knows, hey, if you're here with us, you're part of our team, part of our family. But every single staff member and student got that shirt. I think all of the chamber members received that shirt.
Yeah.
Leadership Belleville team, and then I know we've also provided those, and then staff members and other community members could buy those. There's a store too, but we wear it, or we encourage everybody to wear it once a month. But you'll see, if you went into our schools today, you'd see kids wearing that. But part of it is we want people to understand that, everybody's different, and that makes us stronger, but let's talk about how we can all make sure we're included. And our district's always been huge into character education. We've got multiple schools that are nationally recognized schools of character, state recognized schools of character. This is sort of under that umbrella, but takes it to a little bit different level in ensuring that, you know what, when I'm at school, I can feel safe. I'm accepted there. I'm celebrated there. I'm just part of that team.
I have my shirt. Eric, do you have yours?
I do not.
What a shame.
Gotta get one.
You do. You do. You know, right, one thing I want to touch on is, you know, the teaching industry, or teacher education industry, I guess I should say. You know, there's a lot of baby boomers that have been involved with that and are coming upon retirement age. Staffing issues, not just in education, but across the board for everybody, are tighter and more difficult than probably have been in quite a long time. How are you guys kind of navigating, you know, the current wave of baby boomers retiring and possible, you know, hiring issues? I don't want to say issues, but troubles, I guess, on the forefront.
So we always attract candidates because we pay well. We have good benefits. But part of it goes back, to that belonging begins in Belleville. We want our district to have a culture where people feel like, you know what, I'm supported there as a teacher. I'm going to have great kids and families. We hired 33 licensed staff members last summer for this school year. I think 4 of them were brand new out of college. Everyone else had experience, and we 10 to 20 years experience. And I'd like to attribute that to the culture of our district. This is where people want to be. There's some phenomenal educators out there, and I'd like to say that our team in our district has most of those. So,
are you guys attracting from across the river much at all?
You know, I don't think that happens a ton. You know, we used to talk about recruiting and, you know, do we reach out to colleges outside of Illinois? And while I think education is the best career out there, I'm a little bit biased. I don't think people are going to move from Texas or Ohio just to teach. If they have a spouse that may be relocated here, or if they're coming back home from college. But I know with the local universities, when you say across the river, I know with St. Louis University, you know, Lindenwood, you know, those colleges, we always try to advertise at their job fairs, and, you know, do those things to make sure people are aware if they're from Belleville but maybe went away to school, that, hey, we'd love for you to come back and, you know, check us out and see if this is a good fit for you when you're a teacher or a school psychologist or a social worker or whatever field you might be in the, you know, education world.
Have you experienced, you know, you've been in the district for such a long time now, that there were students that you either taught or, you know, were at the school that you were, you know, were principal or admin at, that are now back in the district as teachers at all?
Actually, my first year teaching science at Central Junior High, I had a girl named Monet Sanders in my class. Monet Sanders is now Monet Webster, who's the principal at Central. So she came back, and she's the principal at school she went to. Alan Sparger's principal at West Haven. He was a student at Central when I was there. Kyle Coker teaches 6th grade at Franklin. He was in my first 6th grade class I ever taught. So we have a lot of former students who, you know, Grow Your Own is you know, one avenue to try to get some of the best educators, and we try to do that also. You know, whether they're student teaching or they've already student taught. But yeah, I think in all of our job classes, we've got some former students in the district.
I bet that's kind of cool, though, the kids that you were teaching, especially in your first years.
I mean, it makes me feel old, but.
Well, I think that says a lot, what you mentioned earlier. I think that just kind of solidifies, you know, what you talked about, your culture, you know, your educators as well. You know, when you get kids that, you know, see a current teacher and kind of have that feeling of, you know, that's what I want to do, or they make an impact on that kid's life, I think that attests to that culture, that they're coming back and want to work in that environment and give back to the community as well.
Yeah, I think they have a story that they can tell, saying, "Hey, I grew up in that system," or, you know, grew up in that district, and, you know, whether they can talk about how things have evolved or how to reinforce some of the things that we have in place. Saying that you've lived that as a student is powerful.
Yeah, And I agree. And then to go back and they're former educators now, they're, the superintendent of the district is probably a welcoming feeling, for them as well too, because there's continuity and familiarness with the individual and the school as well. Well, do you have? I know you guys just did your strategic planning, right, not too long ago, and you asked for some input from the community. And is there anything on that you want to kind of touch base where you guys see yourself in the next, 5-10 years or so?
Our 5-year strategic plan, which I think we've been pretty aggressive. I think there's a lot of things on that plan that we've already put into motion. Obviously, our goal for diversity, equity, and inclusion, I think we far surpassed even, I think, where we wanted to be. I mean, we host a monthly administrative or school roundtable for other districts, but that committee is doing a lot of great work. From a communication standpoint, we know that we used to send home, we called it a Wednesday envelope, that every kid would have, if we had some flyers, we'd put it in there and it would go home and then the kids would bring the envelope back. Now we've got teachers communicate through Dojo, so whether it's at lunchtime, the teacher can send mom or dad a message or whatever it is. But we've partnered with Aptigee, and it should be ready to go live, which basically is going to enhance our website and then allow us to, utilize whether it's Facebook Messenger, Instagram, Twitter, so that we can go to one spot and send that communication out via, different modes. But that's supposed to go live in February. So we're excited about that. But there's just things, I know schools send home a weekly message, but we want to make sure that families are in the know as soon as possible. We want that communication to be two-way so that, they feel comfortable in asking questions and providing feedback also. Obviously instruction and academic success is a huge piece of education that sometimes we're doing all these other great things that we sometimes forget. But I will say this, from an instruction standpoint, not just reading and math, but across all curricular levels, we've got some really neat things in place. I think our district uses data to assess and tweak our instructional model more than we've ever used before. And then really we want our facilities to be inviting and outstanding places for kids to learn and staff members to work. So again, we're looking at the secure entrances for the buildings that don't have them, the upgraded HVAC to save some money on energy and then also to make the learning environment more comfortable. I have to give a shout out to the District 118 Foundation. They just provided the financial support for 2 brand new playgrounds, one at Franklin, one at Henry Robb, and then they would like to implement a phase-in plan for the rest of the elementary schools in the district over the next few years. People forget that playgrounds, with whether it's your swings, your slides, aren't just used during the day by our students, but by community members, moms and dads who may take their families there at night. And so they get used a lot, and they are fairly expensive to replace, but that's a commitment the foundation has made so that our schools and the environments can be as good as possible. So I think we've got, and our strategic plan is on our website, but we have a very realistic plan that, it's a working document. We'll tweak it and upgrade it as we go, but there's a lot of meaningful feedback that went into that document, not just by our staff and our board, but the community.
Well, you said it's been 4 years now since you've been in the position of superintendent, and to me that doesn't seem, I thought it was shorter than that. So, I think that just shows a testament to how well of a job you are doing over there. I think the district is in a very good position, and I think that's a lot in part with you. So again, kudos to you and the job that you've done in the time in your position.
I appreciate that, and I have awesome people around me. So, the credit really needs to go to the team. But again, I feel lucky to have been all except 1 year I taught at MG my first year out of college because District 118 didn't have any openings. But otherwise, I've been in District 118, and again, phenomenal place, phenomenal community.
Well, look, you're a busy guy. We want to be respectful of your time. You got people calling you during the midst of a very sought after podcast here, largest in Metro East. I think. Don't hold me to those numbers, but we know you're a busy guy, so we want to be respectful for your time, and we appreciate you coming on board with us today.
Gentlemen, I appreciate the invite.
Thank you so much. Take care.
Thanks, Ryan.
All right.
Thanks for listening to another episode of the Growing Belleville Through Community Chats podcast. Please remember to follow and subscribe to this podcast and share with your friends and community leaders. For additional information from this podcast, please reach out to the Greater Belleville Chamber of Commerce.